Meine Volksgenossen und Volksgenossinnen, heute Morgen um 10 Uhr hat der Wettkampf begonnen. Er wird bis um die Mitternachtsstunde fortgesetzt. Er vollzieht sich.
Many people in a variety of different countries seem to view plastic surgery as being a rather vain thing. Indeed, the idea of a race looking and thinking exactly the same is not a view which should be respected. Even looking at the ideal from a biased perspective, it is obvious looking at history. Surely such a thing reminds you of a few groups of people. But whether plastic surgery itself is a good or bad thing is definitely debatable. Many seem to agree that plastic surgery is not a bad thing if you do it for medical reasons. Some people actually have medical disorders in their face which causes them to actually feel pain from eating. Many would argue perhaps that plastic surgery is valid in this case. But then again, where do we draw the distinction between good and bad plastic surgery? Why is putting makeup on or having braces any different from having plastic surgery? Because plastic surgery is permanent maybe? But is this really a valid reason for denouncing plastic surgery and labelling people who get it as vain? Following this logic, surely going to the gym and working on your muscles is just as vain. The truth is that there is no correct moral distinction. It is purely subjective. Ultimately, the benefits of plastic surgery in a country is defined by the public's view or media's standpoint on the issue. But there are a few things that can definitely be said about plastic surgery. And one thing is that plastic surgery is not as safe as people think. Even in countries like the US, plastic surgery can go wrong. Here I present you a few scary personal accounts given by surgeons of patients of when plastic surgery goes horribly wrong. Story 1. I doubt you'll hear too many real stories about plastic surgery. Mine is an extremely rare case. I was a patient, and awake for the surgery. I was supposed to be having a bump on my back removed. It was nothing huge, just a lump of some kind. For insurance reasons, they did it as an ambulatory in the OR of a hospital instead of in the surgeon's actual office. So, I'm wide awake, face down in the OR. I picked him as my surgeon because his main practice was plastic surgery. At the time I lifted weights a lot and spent a lot of time working on my back. I wanted as small a scar as possible. I was vain. I know I was. He begins with the first incision, and then goes for a second, larger, and I guess deeper one. He then realises the bump is just the extruding tip of a cyst that cut through my back to the back of my lungs. He wasn't used to operating on alert patients, and as soon as he realised it, he just says, "Oh fuck." That was the beginning of a 4-hour surgery for which I was awake all through. What they cut out of me was the size of an adult fist. Enclosing the wound, they drew in so much flesh, for lack of a better word because of my lack of medical understanding, that my right arm became essentially inflexible. I couldn't lift weights for years, and all that precious work went down the drain. What a complete asshole I was. Story 2. A plastic surgeon once told me about his most unfortunate experience in surgery. In order to have the patient's head stabilised for surgery, he was using a frame where there were 3 set spikes that held the head in place. Due to the angle he needed to approach from, this required the patient to be face down. And as he was placing the head of the sleeping patient onto the frame, the head slipped from his hands and his eye landed on the spike, perforating the eyeball with a massive squelching sound. Panicking and thinking that his career was now over, he then, rather bizarrely, started poking at the eyeball trying to work out what was what until one of the nurses told him to stop. They then called in another doctor, who came to tidy up what was now a completely ruined eye. After the surgery, terrified, the doctor went to explain to the patient what had happened. Understandably fearing the worst, anger, distress and tears from the patient, he actually received the response of, "That's okay, I was blind in that eye anyway." Story 3. I'm actually recovering from a revision nose job as I tell this story. My mum has a very straight and regal nose, and I always envied it. I inherited my grandmother's nose, very small and button-like, and I'd always detested it. After my first nose job, I gained a lot more confidence in myself, but I was also even more self-conscious, if that makes any sense. I was constantly touching it, and would stare at my nose in the mirror. Everyone's noses are imperfect, and no one is 100% happy, I know, but after having plastic surgery, that feeling actually amplified. I liked my new nose, but I still saw flaws in it. I still thought it could be better. There were times of crippling insecurity, a constant fear that this wasn't good enough or that something was wrong with how it looked. However, most days I did feel confident in the new me and felt beautiful. I even nabbed myself a hot boyfriend. I'm now recovering from my second nose job. It turned out there was complications with my first surgery and it needed to be redone to prevent problems in the future. My recommendation, so that this doesn't happen to others, is to do your research and don't do it overseas. Yes, it may be cheaper, but the results may suffer as a result. I'm once again faced with a heightened sense of fear that something will or has gone wrong. I spend quite a few days crying, like yesterday, because I fear something has gone wrong. I also feel that I'm at the edge of a slippery slope. If there's something you dislike about your body, why not just fix it? This is a hard thought to dispel out of your mind, and some people with addictive or perfectionist personalities may find the temptation hard to resist. I would recommend facial plastic surgery to people who think they would benefit from such procedures, but I also urge them to exercise caution when choosing a doctor and reflect on whether or not one surgery will be enough. Story 4. I'm not a plastic surgeon, but I worked as a casual bra store consultant about 3 years ago. A young woman walked in and excitedly exclaimed that she needed a new bra because she had a breast augmentation 3 months prior, and they were just healing. First red flag. Should have completely healed by a maximum of 6 weeks. Anyway, I take her into the change room so I can get her fitted, and ask her to remove her shirt. I had to mask my horror. No wonder nothing fit her. One breast was literally 2 inches above the other, so the nipple hung out the top of the bra cup, whereas the other breast fit perfectly. On top of that, she had a capsular contraction, and I could see the scarring and redness all around the base of her breasts. Hence, it was not healing. Comes out via chatting that she had them done in Thailand. She was still super happy about it, and I didn't want to burst her bubble, so I just politely mentioned she should go see a real doctor soon, and fitted her into the sports bra. Story 5. I live in South Korea. I got an eyelid surgery with a non-incisional method. I am very happy with it, and it was 100% my personal choice. But here in Korea, beauty standards set by the media, celebrities, and enforced by peers and parents play a colossal influence on the mostly women's decisions to undergo cosmetic surgery. I attend college here and I have only 3 female friends that have not gotten eyelid surgery or nose job. Usually, girls here get cosmetic surgery for their high school graduation present. It's incredibly vain, but then again, I also got it too, so I can't really say anything. Personally, I was happy just getting that procedure done. However, my plastic surgeon told me literally 2 minutes after finishing the job, "Now all you need is a little nose job to make you even prettier." Extra story. A lot of my friends had plastic surgery, and I grew up being told by everyone, including my parents, once you're 17, you can finally fix your eyes. I have monolids, which are Asian eyes with no crease on them. It's considered ugly, and plastic surgery to fix them is strongly encouraged in Korea, even when you're a kid. So, as I grew up, I get to see how people are before and after the surgery, and there really isn't much of a difference to your personality. People who are already vivacious, enjoy life and confident remain that way. The sad ones are the people who are insecure, unhappy about their looks in the first place. They're still insecure and usually find other physical things they want to fix after the surgery. Sure, they can look prettier, but people still often don't notice because they still fade into the background. As for me, I used to be one of those invisible wallflowers. I grew up being told I was ugly, and I felt ugly. And to the surprise of my parents, I decided to say no to the eyelid surgery. I don't know why I said no at the time, but I'm glad I did. Knowing that I could say no to something everyone told me I had to do gave me enormous confidence. I started being way more outgoing and took care of myself properly. The compliments actually started coming in then. I still meet a lot of girls considering the surgery or feeling a lot of pressure to get the surgery from their peers. They're usually surprised when they realise I have monolids as well, and I'm not using any tape or glue to fake a crease. They'll say things like, "Oh, but yours is a nice kind of monolid," or "You don't look like you have monolids." But I always tell them a lot of it comes down to your attitude, and it is true. One of my younger sister's friends used to let herself sink into the ground since she was so insecure about her monolids. But after we had a long conversation, she confidently opted out of the surgery. Ever since then, I think she became way more eye-catching and elegant young woman. And of course, people now say she has a nice kind of monolids. Conclusion: plastic surgery doesn't change your personality.
His love, 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 his love, love, his love, love.
Moments of you.
His love, love, his love, love, his love, love.
Moments of